Ladies and gentlemen, you need to hear this because somewhere along the way, many of us stopped listening, not to the noise around us, but to the voice within us, the one that whispers our purpose, reminds us of our value, and tells us why we started in the first place. Every one of us has a why, a reason that drives us to wake up each day and face a world filled with uncertainties. Yet, how often do we pause to connect with it? Too often we're caught up in the what and the how of life, what we're doing, how we're doing it, but the why gets lost in the shuffle. Imagine standing at the edge of a pond. You pick up a small pebble and drop it into the water. What happens? A ripple forms. That tiny pebble doesn't make a massive splash, but its ripple travels farther than you expect. That's the power of your actions, no matter how small they seem. You might think your efforts are insignificant, but they could be the beginning of a wave that changes someone else's life. Every action we take stems from a reason, but have you ever stopped to consider why you do what you do? We live in a world that values productivity, efficiency, and results. We measure success by numbers, titles, and outcomes, yet beneath all of that is something far more powerful: purpose. Purpose is not just a lofty ideal or a motivational buzzword. It is the foundation of everything meaningful we accomplish. Without purpose, our actions become hollow, and our successes lose their significance. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most alive, most fulfilled. Were they the times you simply checked a task off your to-do list? Or were they the moments when you were deeply connected to what you were doing and why you were doing it? Purpose gives context to our actions. It turns mundane tasks into meaningful contributions and transforms hard work into something worth striving for. But here's the catch: many people go through life without fully understanding their purpose. It's not because they lack one, it's because they've never taken the time to uncover it. We get so caught up in the noise of expectations, what society tells us we should do, what others think we're capable of, that we rarely pause to ask ourselves, what do I truly care about? What impact do I want to make? Purpose isn't handed to us, it's something we discover, often through moments of reflection, struggle, and growth. When we align our actions with our purpose, something remarkable happens. We start to approach life with a sense of clarity and direction. Decisions that once felt overwhelming become simpler because they're guided by a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable become opportunities because we see how they fit into the bigger picture of what we're working toward. Purpose gives us the strength to persevere when things get tough because we know we're not just working hard, we're working for something meaningful. Purpose is also contagious. When you operate with a clear sense of why, it inspires others around you. People are drawn to those who are driven by something bigger than themselves. Whether you're leading a team, raising a family, or simply navigating your own journey, your sense of purpose has the power to influence and uplift those around you. It creates a ripple effect, motivating others to connect with their own why and contribute to something greater. But purpose isn't static. It evolves as we grow and as our circumstances change. What drives you today might not be what drives you tomorrow. And that's okay. The important thing is to stay curious, to continually ask yourself, why am I doing this? When you lose sight of your purpose, it's easy to become disengaged, to go through the motions without truly investing in what you're doing. Yet, when you reconnect with your purpose, you reignite the passion and energy needed to create meaningful impact. Purpose is the foundation of a life well lived. It's the difference between existing and truly thriving. Even the smallest, seemingly insignificant actions can create waves of impact. In a world that often glorifies grand gestures and monumental achievements, it's easy to underestimate the power of the little things we do every day. We convince ourselves that if we're not making a big splash, then what we're doing doesn't matter. But the truth is, it's the small, consistent actions that shape lives, build relationships, and change the world over time. Consider the act of smiling at a stranger. It takes no more than a second of your time, yet it has the power to brighten someone's day. That stranger might carry that smile with them, passing it on to someone else, creating a chain reaction of kindness. It's a simple act, almost effortless, yet its impact can stretch far beyond what you can see. This is the ripple effect in action, a single pebble dropped into a pond, sending out waves that touch distant shores. Now, think about the small choices you make each day. Sending a kind message to a friend, offering to help a colleague, or taking 5 minutes to listen to someone who needs to be heard. These are not earth-shattering actions, but they build trust, strengthen relationships, and foster connection. Over time, they accumulate, creating a foundation of goodwill and positive influence that can lead to incredible outcomes. We hesitate to act because we think our efforts won't make a difference. We're tempted to believe that only big, bold moves have real value. But history tells a different story. Movements often begin with a single individual taking a seemingly small step, a quiet decision to stand up for what's right, a lone voice speaking out in a crowded room. These moments of courage and commitment may seem minor at first, but they inspire others to follow, amplifying their impact exponentially. It's important to remember that the ripple effect works both ways. Just as positive actions can spread and inspire, so too can negative ones. A careless word, an unkind gesture, or an act of indifference can also create ripples, sometimes with consequences we never intended. This awareness doesn't mean we need to live in fear of making mistakes. It simply reminds us of the power we hold in even the smallest interactions. The beauty of small actions is that they're accessible to everyone. You don't need to be in a position of power or have significant resources to make a difference. You simply need the willingness to show up and take that first step, however small it may seem. What starts as a single action, a word of encouragement, a moment of generosity, can grow into something far greater than you ever imagined. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenges we face, whether in our personal lives or in the world at large. But the solution doesn't lie in trying to solve everything all at once. It lies in recognizing the power of small, intentional actions and trusting that they will build momentum over time. One small pebble, one ripple at a time. People don't follow what you do, they follow why you do it. Authenticity lies at the core of connection, and it is one of the most powerful forces in human relationships. In a world saturated with messages, advertisements, and noise, authenticity cuts through and speaks directly to the heart. It's the difference between being heard and truly being understood. Authenticity is about being real, showing up as your true self without pretense or facade. It's about aligning your words, actions, and values so that there's no gap between who you are and how you show up in the world. Authenticity builds trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful connection. Without trust, relationships are transactional at best, fleeting at worst. But with trust, you create bonds that endure, even through challenges and uncertainty. We're naturally drawn to authenticity because it resonates on a deeper level. When someone is authentic, we feel it. It's not about perfection, it's about being genuine. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are they're not flawless, but they're real. They're willing to be vulnerable, to share their struggles and victories honestly. That honesty creates a sense of connection because it reminds us that we're not alone in our imperfections. Yet, being authentic is not always easy. It requires courage to be vulnerable, to show parts of yourself that you might be tempted to hide. In a culture that often celebrates image over substance, it's tempting to present a polished, curated version of yourself in the hopes of gaining approval or fitting in. But that approach rarely leads to meaningful connections. People can sense when something is off, when words and actions don't align. Authenticity, on the other hand, invites others to connect with you on a genuine level. The power of authenticity extends beyond personal relationships. In leadership, it's one of the most vital qualities. People don't just follow leaders because of their titles or authority, they follow leaders who inspire them, who make them feel seen, heard, and valued. Authentic leaders don't pretend to have all the answers. Instead, they're honest about their challenges and open about their values and vision. This honesty fosters loyalty and commitment, as people are more willing to rally behind a leader they believe in. Authenticity also drives innovation and creativity. When you're true to yourself, you're not afraid to express new ideas or challenge the status quo. You're more likely to take risks, not because you're reckless, but because you're confident in your values and direction. This authenticity inspires others to do the same, creating an environment where creativity thrives and people feel empowered to bring their full selves to the table. Authenticity is about integrity, living in alignment with your values and purpose. It's about showing up not as who you think you should be, but as who you truly are. In doing so, you create connections that are meaningful, lasting, and transformative. People follow authenticity because it's rare, it's real, and it reminds us of the best parts of being human. Strength is found not in perfection, but in the courage to admit imperfection. Embracing vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, it's a profound expression of bravery. In a world that often equates strength with invincibility and success with flawlessness, vulnerability challenges that narrative by revealing the power of authenticity and connection. It is the ability to show up, even when the outcome is uncertain, and to say, "This is me with all my fears, hopes, and flaws." Vulnerability is the foundation of trust. Think about the moments when you felt closest to someone, a friend, a partner, or even a colleague. It wasn't when everything was going perfectly. It was likely during a moment of shared struggle, honesty, or raw emotion. When someone opens up and shares their true self, it creates a safe space for others to do the same. It's a reciprocal process that deepens relationships and fosters connection. Yet, vulnerability is not easy. It feels risky, even terrifying, because it involves exposing parts of ourselves that we usually keep hidden. The fear of judgment, rejection, or failure can make us put up walls to protect ourselves. But those walls don't just keep pain out, they also keep love, joy, and connection at bay. To live a full, meaningful life, we must be willing to take the risk of being vulnerable. In leadership, vulnerability is often misunderstood. There's a misconception that leaders must always be strong, confident, and in control. But the best leaders know that admitting mistakes, sharing uncertainties, and asking for help are not signs of weakness, they're signs of wisdom. When leaders are vulnerable, they create an environment where others feel safe to take risks and innovate. It shows that failure is not something to be feared, but a natural part of growth. This kind of culture encourages creativity, collaboration, and resilience. Vulnerability is also a catalyst for personal growth. When we face challenges, it's tempting to put on a brave face and act like we have it all together. But real growth happens when we acknowledge our struggles and confront our fears. It's in those moments of vulnerability that we learn the most about ourselves, our values, our strengths, and our capacity to overcome adversity. By embracing our imperfections, we give ourselves permission to be human, to learn, and to evolve. One of the most powerful aspects of vulnerability is its ability to inspire others. When you share your struggles, you remind others that they're not alone in theirs. Your courage becomes a beacon of hope, showing them that it's okay to be imperfect, to struggle, and to keep going. This kind of leadership, whether in a family, a community, or an organization, is transformative. It creates a ripple effect, encouraging others to embrace their own vulnerabilities and step into their authenticity. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or seeking sympathy. It's about being real, being present, and being brave enough to let others see who you truly are. It's about owning your story, even the messy parts, and understanding that those imperfections are what make you relatable, resilient, and human. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is an essential part of the journey toward it. Too often, failure is seen as a verdict, a sign that we're not good enough, or that we've reached the end of the road. But the truth is, failure is a teacher, not a final destination. Every stumble, every misstep, and every setback contains a lesson if we're willing to learn from it. When we think of success stories, it's easy to focus on the triumphs and ignore the struggles that came before them. But behind every great achievement lies a series of failures that shape the person or the process. Those failures were not roadblocks, they were stepping stones. They provided the insights, resilience, and growth necessary to reach the next level. Failure forces us to confront our assumptions, adapt our strategies, and strengthen our resolve. It's not a sign of weakness, but a mark of progress. One of the reasons failure feels so daunting is because we often tie our self-worth to our outcomes. When we fail, we don't just see it as a flaw in our efforts. We take it as a reflection of our value as individuals. But failure is not about who you are, it's about what you tried. It's evidence that you had the courage to take a risk, to step outside your comfort zone, and to pursue something meaningful. In that sense, failure is proof of ambition and bravery, not inadequacy. Failure also has a way of revealing what truly matters. When things don't go as planned, it forces us to reevaluate our priorities and refocus on what's important. Sometimes what feels like a setback is actually a redirection towards something better. The plans we make may not always align with the opportunities life has in store for us. And failure can be the catalyst that helps us find a path we wouldn't have considered otherwise. Failure cultivates resilience. It's easy to be optimistic and confident when everything is going smoothly. But true strength is forged in moments of adversity. Every time we face failure and choose to get back up, we build a deeper reservoir of determination and grit. We learn that we are capable of handling more than we thought, and that setbacks don't define us, they refine us. Failure also fosters empathy. When we've experienced our own struggles, we become more understanding of others who are going through similar challenges. It reminds us that no one is perfect and that everyone is on a journey filled with ups and downs. This perspective not only deepens our relationships, but also makes us better leaders, teammates, and friends. Failure is a part of the process, not the end of it. The most successful people in the world are not those who avoided failure, but those who embraced it, learned from it, and used it as fuel to keep moving forward. Failure teaches us to be adaptable, to keep striving, and to never stop growing. It reminds us that success is not a straight line, but a series of climbs, falls, and lessons along the way. Fear often paralyzes action, but greatness begins with a single imperfect step. The courage to start is one of the most transformative forces in life. Yet it's also one of the hardest to summon, because starting means stepping into the unknown. It means letting go of certainty, embracing vulnerability, and risking failure. But the alternative, staying still, offers no growth, no progress, and no fulfillment. Starting doesn't require perfection. In fact, the pursuit of perfection often prevents us from beginning at all. We wait for the right moment, the perfect plan, or the ideal circumstances, but they rarely, if ever, come. The truth is, the perfect moment to start doesn't exist. What matters is the willingness to take that first step, no matter how small or uncertain it may feel. Action creates momentum, and momentum builds confidence. What begins as a tentative move forward can grow into something extraordinary over time. The courage to start also requires us to confront fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. These are powerful emotions that can keep us trapped in our comfort zones. But fear is not a signal to stop. It's an invitation to grow. When we start despite our fears, we discover that the act of moving forward is often less daunting than the anticipation of it. We realize that fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its power when we take action. Starting is not about having all the answers, it's about being willing to figure them out along the way. Some of the most significant achievements in history began with uncertainty and doubt. The people behind them didn't wait until they had everything figured out. They started, they learned, and they adapted as they went. The path may not always be clear, but clarity often comes through action, not the other way around. There's also a profound freedom in starting. It liberates us from the weight of what if, and replaces it with the energy of what's next. When we take that first step, we break free from the inertia of overthinking and step into a world of possibility. It's not about knowing where the journey will end, it's about having the courage to begin it. Starting also inspires others. When you take the leap, it encourages those around you to do the same. Your courage becomes a spark, lighting the way for others who may be hesitating on the edge of their own beginnings. The act of starting is not just a gift to yourself, but a ripple that can create waves of change in your community, your workplace, or even the world. The first step is rarely easy, but it's always worth it. It's the moment you shift from dreaming to doing, from planning to pursuing. It's the moment when fear begins to give way to hope and possibility becomes reality. Starting doesn't promise immediate success, but it guarantees growth, learning, and the chance to create something meaningful. The courage to take that step is what sets greatness in motion. In the end, the journey toward a meaningful life isn't about waiting for the perfect moment or striving for perfection. It's about understanding the power of purpose, the impact of small actions, the strength of authenticity, the courage to be vulnerable, the lessons in failure, and the boldness to start. Each of these elements forms the foundation of a life well lived, a life that is not defined by the absence of struggles or mistakes, but by the way we show up in the face of them. We all have the potential to make a difference, not through grand gestures alone, but through the everyday choices we make, the words we speak, the actions we take, and the courage we summon in the face of fear. It's in these moments that we find our true power. When we embrace our purpose, connect authentically with others, and act with courage, we create ripples of change that extend far beyond what we can see. So as you walk away from this moment, remember that you don't have to have it all figured out to make an impact. The world doesn't need perfection, it needs you, your genuine, imperfect, courageous self. You don't need to wait for everything to align perfectly, you just need to start. Because the world is waiting for what you have to offer, and your courage, authenticity, and willingness to act will inspire others to do the same.